MIDDLEKAUFF! Hey! Welcome to the show!
It's like we're taking psychedelics.
we're working some things out, trying some things out. Yeah.
You know? It's part of the internet, right? You get to try some different shit.
What's up, YouTube? Everybody hanging? Much like your TV broadcast, a 7 o'clock game means a 7:15 tip, John, or in this case, a Tuesday evening on the YouTube. What's up, everybody? Good to see you.
What's happening, people? It's the internet. Time is fluid. Fluid is time. You just kind of go. The podcasters, they just listen when the podcast comes up. I think YouTube, they get a little spoiled. This isn't television. This isn't network TV. You're going to be on at 8 o'clock. No, it's like maybe 8:15, maybe 8:45, maybe 7:38. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Wasn't that a Bruce Lee quote? Time is water and water is podcasting or something like that?
Couldn't he from like a foot away knock you out with a chest shot? I was just
saying. unless it was Brad Pitt from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Kicked him into a car. Remember that?
Didn't he kick his ass or something?
He got fired for fighting Bruce Lee. He damaged the car. Remember that?
I need to watch that movie again. That was I went to theaters, watched it by myself.
Really? I don't remember where I saw it for the first time, but it's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah, I did a solo mission here in Walnut Creek. It was like summer or whatever. It was like Leo, Brad Pitt. I'm like, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
It was good.
It's
and then the whole story behind it. Did you know about that? Had you heard about that killing that went on?
I had heard of it just in the name of it, but I didn't quite understand it. We didn't live it, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
All right, everybody on YouTube, hello. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button. That helps out the channel and the podcast, which we appreciate, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you're listening to the podcast, it's great to have you. The mailbag will return. So as always, we appreciate you going to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, leaving us a 5-star review. That helps out the podcast. If you're on Spotify, that's cool too, or wherever you're getting your pods, some random local platform. That's cool. Wherever you get it, we appreciate it.
I think we see the numbers. I think 90% of them are coming from Apple iTunes, and then
vast majority, yes.
And then a decent, the largest percentage of the next is Spotify. So I think we know who corners the market. Keep on listening and get ready for some football because the 49ers are still alive. We got the final 8, and we got 4 games. I actually got a text from our buddy Hawkins. He's like, "You want to play golf, Pebble Beach Saturday?" I'm like, God damn it, fucking NFL. I'm like, what time? And then he gave me the time. It just wasn't going to add up. I'm like, I got to watch the Niners Packers. I was going to have no problem skipping the first one, but I can't. That's just, the Niners Packers, man. Big deal.
Can I text Hawkins and be like, I'll take Middlekauff's spot?
You could, yeah. I mean, it was going to pay. I was going to pay.
Well, I understand. Yeah. What time is that first game? 1:30
and 5:15, I think.
Leave some time. Get a little pregame. For the second game, can't have an overlap. Can't let the pregame show game number 2. This one's Fox. Troy got his Niner game. Didn't get his Cowboy game, but Troy got his Niner game. This will be Cowboys. Cowboys are out, but Troy's still getting his Niners.
I get it. That was his. That's not Tony. Tony Romo was busy playing like Eli Manning. Like he's like Troy's like I built this fucking thing playing the 49ers, and now you send me to Tampa. They do have Tampa. Their media at halftime is Bananas Foster. It's like pretty unreal. It's like this whole ice cream setup. I vividly remember that in my scouting days. It's a pretty special setup. That was the highlight of.
They didn't have that one at Utah State when you were going through Logan, did they?
No, they didn't. But that was a Bananas Foster Tampa Bay. I don't even know what the Bananas Foster is. I just remember people talking about it. Then I went, and it was like this whole sweet setup. Sprinkles.
Is it like a banana split?
Yeah, I think there are just several different options. I mean, you can just go with like a bowl of ice cream, but it's a pretty cool setup. And the line of fat media people is fucking long.
Get in early, get their seconds.
Guy, that 2-minute drill. You think people are locked in this 2-minute drill, or they're moving back?
You know what someone told me one time?
You know the way these people think and where they gravitate.
Well,
toward.
someone told me one time, you're at somebody's house and they got like, it's like a buffet or like it's respectful to the chef to be first in line. Everyone's always like, oh, no, you go ahead. No one ever wants to be first in line. One's like, all right, food's out, everybody. It's like, no, it's respectful to the chef to be first in line. So
my issue with the first in line thing, because you're always getting yelled at by your parents, like, eat, grab your plates. It's like, well, yeah, then I sit down and I got to wait for you. So it's like I do well if I sit down and then there's a quick transition of even if we're saying a prayer or something. But if I got to sit there for 7 minutes and look at whatever I'm about to eat, I don't have the discipline. I'm not Jocko. This is not, I can't sit there and pretend everything's good. I'll go, just take your time, guys.
Also, if you're a fast eater, you're at a major disadvantage because you don't want to be done as people are taking their first bite. Like,
no.
If we all start from the same place on the track, I'm going to finish before most people, unfortunately.
Sure. Exactly.
So, podcast is brought to you by MyBookie.ag, promo code Hammond, the number one. MyBookie.ag, promo code Hammond, the number one. Well, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $1,000. If you accept the bonus, remember you have to bet the full amount before you can withdraw funds. You can also decline the bonus. But either way, use Hammond, the number one. That way they know we sent you. Let's update, John, what happened last week.
Well, we won $1,000. We won like $1,100 because we hit a little parlay. What was the parlay? The under of the Raider game and just the Bills -4. And then we bet the 49ers money line. That was a little more stressful than it should have been. So we went from having $18 in the hopper to now having $1,918. So we got some money to play with. But this week's, like I ain't putting money on the Niner game. I know that. The Bills-Chiefs, you see Andy's comparing, the season to chocolate cake. I wouldn't bet against the fourth-time all-time winningest playoff coach ever, even though I kind of like the Bills. That one's a tough. The Titans Bengals games. Yeah, I'm with you. I would bet on the Chiefs, but don't the Bills make you a little nervous?
Yeah, they do. But all these, this is the Elite Eight, John. This is the Elite Eight. That's where we're at. Like nothing comes easy here. Okay.
So, I kind of like the Titans. I think a lot of people are going to take the Bengals. I think we talked about that the other day. But I think the team that I like, just the value and just you watch them. Their
Bengals are plus 160. So
do you like the Bengals plus 160 or the Rams plus 130 more? Because I like the Rams plus 130 a lot, just in terms of value and.
Yeah, I like the Rams plus 130 more. Because I think you negate a little bit. I don't love Matt Stafford on the road against Tom Brady, but it's not exactly Lambeau they're playing in or Gillette Stadium here. They're playing in Tampa. So I think it negates that.
He was really good. I know it was the Cardinals, but I thought that was the best he's looked in 2 months, right? Not turning the ball over, just throwing dimes. Like that's why they traded 2 first-round picks for him. So to me, can he just have a turnover, a game where he's not turning the ball? Because if he does, they're clearly a top 2 or 3 team in the league, right? If he's going to play like he did last night. It's just, do you trust him on the road? I don't know. It's not inconceivable that Rams win this game and the Niners upset. All of a sudden, the Rams host the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, there's no trust. I wouldn't use the word trust. There's not a lot of trust for me with any of this stuff. These games are just one throw makes all the difference. And Tom Brady's made these one throws a million times in his life, and Matthew Stafford's basically never done it.
Pretty sure Tom threw 3 picks last year in Green Bay, if memory serves me correct. So it's like Tom turns the ball over. He's old. Not against the Eagles, but
yeah. I'll be very interested to see if this Niner number keeps going up.
It's 6 once you log in.
6 now. Once I log in. 4.5 felt a little low anyway. The Packers were up 17-0 in their first game. We'll talk about whether the first game matters or not. But I do think the Niners are getting a little underrated. They're plus 195. So
I put $1,000 on that.
I don't. No.
It would pay $1,950. We have a lot of cash then.
I know. What's the total amount in the pot right now?
$1,918.
$1,918. So we've got something to play with. So we can dial that in on Thursday. I'll be interested to see if that moves a little bit. Now, I guess if Jimmy, I don't know if that. I think people were talking like all that line moving to Jimmy. Maybe. I don't know. To me, 4.5 to 6. I don't know. I don't think it'd be crazy just for people to wake up on Tuesday and start betting on the Packers. So
I don't think so either.
Anyway,
They're a pretty public team.
Yeah. MyBookie.ag, promo code Hammond, the number one. Podcast also brought to you by
DraftKings. DraftKings. Go to DraftKings, download the app, type in the promo code HAM. Have you made a game for this week yet?
Oh, no. I'll do it right now as we speak.
Should you do it when we're live? You screwed it up before. Let's just wait till it ends. It's risky. Can you doing it right?
I think I can do it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. We're making a game. Send it out. All 4 games this weekend. I'll probably choose the quarterback who's the worst because that's typically what I do. Here's what you do. You have a chance to win millions of dollars every playoff round. You pick a quarterback, you pick 2 running backs, you pick 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and a defense. Boom, you're cooking with gas. You have a chance to win money. I think the winner of our game last week got like $250. Listen, over $1 million each round. Set up your own DraftKings account. You get in our league. We do this all year long. We'll do the big golf tournaments. We'll do any big events that are fun. And can't recommend it enough. We've been using DraftKings now for years. Just download the app, type in the promo code HAM, and get your shot at $1 million in total prizes throughout the NFL playoffs. It's very, very easy to do. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Dan asked, how did you go from 18 to 1,900 in a weekend? A few big parlays? No, I think it was 180, wasn't it? Did you say $18?
Well, yeah, because we had $718 when the weekend started. We placed $700 worth of bets. If we lost them both, we would only have $18. So the $700 turned into whatever, $1,200, right? We won a parlay that paid $700, and we won the Niners money line. I think paid like plus 110, so we won $520 or something.
Yeah. You're right. I won't make the game right now. It's just too risky for me to. I've screwed it up too many times. I screwed it up last week, actually.
And you 3.0.
So, but like John said, use the promo code HAM to get your shot at millions of dollars of prizes every round of the NFL playoffs. Go get it. Use the promo code HAM, and come have fun. Come have fun with us in our DraftKings game. Oh, you sent me this today. This is good. I like this. Let me see if somebody said I can see all your tabs. I know I'm only sharing the tabs that doesn't bother me. You can see these tabs.
Yeah, he's not watching you porn on he saves that for the iPad.
Different, yep. Different browser. Look, you sent me this, so why don't you set this up?
This is just an incredible graphic. I mean, it truly is. And I was sitting on my couch, kind of hate watching after like the first couple drives because it felt like the Bucs were going to win that game 70-0. A buddy of mine on the Eagles just sends me a text. Is this fucking guy ever going to retire? Because it felt like they were going to get routed, and they really did, even though the final score, I think, was 31-15. He's 44 years old. And to me, it's well known. We talk about it all the time. This puts it into context. The coach of the Packers, the coach of the Niners, and the coach of the Rams are all younger than Tom Brady. And I would say Sean McVay is dramatically younger than Tom Brady. But the two guys, Shanahan and LaFleur. Now, Shanahan, I would say, kind of has the presidential, he's aged in his time, right, as the coach of the Niners. He's definitely added some gray to his face.
Yeah.
Maybe he just grows out the beard. When he came, he was cleanly shaven. He definitely just looks older. Like, to me, Kyle Shanahan looks older than Tom Brady. If you just went, how old, before I saw this graphic, was Kyle Shanahan, I probably would have guessed 44. But it shows you he's still young. To me, LaFleur looks, I would have guessed LaFleur was 40, and obviously I knew Sean was 35, 36 years old. But when you see it like that, I mean, these guys are star head coaches. I was thinking about it this morning. Kyle won his 3rd playoff game. LaFleur's won several playoff games, so he's won 2, so that's 5. And then Sean last night won his 4th. They've won 9 combined playoff games for guys, I mean, when the oldest coach is 42 years old. And obviously, did you see some of the statistics of Brady, the amount of playoff wins he has relative to every other quarterback all time, like adding it up? It's crazy.
Yeah,
like Montana, Rodgers, and all these guys.
And I saw the graphic of him versus every other quarterback just in these playoffs, including last weekend.
That's what it was, yeah. And he had more wins, right?
Yeah, that was the Fox. That was the Fox. Fox had that graphic during that game. Everyone was animated. Whoever made this graphic, of all these guys, for people who aren't seeing it, Brady 44, Shanahan 42, LaFleur 42, McVay 35. And I'll say this too. I was thinking this watching the game the other day. Byron Leftwich is 42. Like Byron Leftwich, the offensive coordinator of the Bucs, is 2 years younger than Tom. I was thinking about it as he was coaching him up on the sideline. Like Byron could very easily have been Tom's, Byron was a starter, but on Tom's team, and Tom would have been telling him what to do. Now Byron Leftwich is Tom's offensive coordinator, right? And I mean, they're telling each other what to do. I think Troy made the point, like they both learned from each other.
And how old do you think Wes Welker is?
I mean, Wes feels, 43, 40.
He's 40.
40. Okay. I mean, it's wild. And the point you made to me as well, like these guys, the Washington football team could have had any of them. Is the Washington football team ever going to hire a Shanahan guy, or did Mike send them all off to make sure that Dan never got their services ever?
Well, to me, it clearly ended pretty ugly with the crew, and they all took off. But I think looking back, now granted, McVay stayed, but Shanahan took the LaFleur's, McDaniels, like they packed up and they left. That one, I do think it's understandable. Like, for example, we've talked a lot about like the Sean Payton situation in Dallas, how they've had that happen, and now they're in somewhat of a situation like that again. It's a little different. I mean, the chances that Dan Quinn or definitely Kellen Moore are going to become Sean Payton feel a little unlikely.
I don't think Kellen Moore's getting an NFL head coaching job this year.
I don't either. But I think when you look at like this crew of guys, but specifically Kyle, like at the time I was with the Eagles when we were playing Kyle Shanahan. I mean, it was Mike, Kyle has become, kind of the star. It's the same with Sean, but they did have Sean for a lot longer. Like Sean became their offensive coordinator. They kept elevating him and keeping him up. Like Kyle Shanahan, they had him for a long period of time. He was their offensive coordinator. And he was a huge part. Like you've heard Robert Saleh talk about the way that LaFleur and him got hired. Like he created these guys. McVay, they did inherit him, where that was just not the case with, the LaFleur crew. Definitely, Matt LaFleur was hired specifically by Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the immediate success, Akash says, even Zach Taylor's won a playoff game. Yeah. And Zach is 38. Zach Taylor's 38 years old, right?
But I'll say this for Zach Taylor. These guys are all McVay, LaFleur's, like those guys are coaches. I remember Zach Taylor as a player.
So do I. Yeah.
So like to
at
me, Zach Taylor,
I remember him mostly at Nebraska.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like I put D'Amico, even though D'Amico and Kyle overcrossed, he was playing for Kyle. Kyle was the offensive coordinator and wide receiver guy, but like they were in the same building every day. Like D'Amico was like to me, the LaFleur family, I think, owes the Shanahan. Like those guys are getting Christmas cards till those guys are buried, right?
You're saying former players start ahead of the game often. Then now Kyle's different. Kyle's unique, right? In that his dad was Mike.
I think Zach Taylor is married to Mike Sherman's daughter. Because Mike Sherman, remember, he was the coach at Nebraska, I'm pretty sure, for a second.
Was he a coordinator there? He wasn't the head coach.
Mike Sherman?
Now, he was a GA at A&M. Maybe that's where they met.
Who was?
Zach Taylor started his career as the GM at Texas A&M.
You're right. Why did I think Mike Sherman was at Nebraska?
Well, you might be right because Mike Sherman was the head coach at A&M and Zach Taylor was a graduate assistant there. Maybe that's where they met.
That's where they
Nebraska met. Football was my favorite. Thanks to Tommy Frazier, I followed it for a while.
Well, Zach Taylor was a quarterback in Nebraska.
Yeah. The long line of quarterbacks that looked kind of exactly the same that they had. So, I understand your point. It's a good point. I do think, like, what's incredible about the Shanahan kind of tree is not just that they all got jobs, is that they're all getting contract extensions and winning playoff games and competing for Super Bowls, right? I mean, that's the part that, or the McVay, I guess McVay got credit. Somebody put it out on the internet again. I'd forgotten about this, that in the Cliff Kingsbury hiring press release in Arizona, it said he's great friends with Sean. But these guys are like these are not, they fake their way to the top and now they're getting extensions. Like they are getting extensions on top of extensions. Say what you want. The time will tell, right? LaFleur is the one who hasn't had to do it without a star quarterback yet. But I mean, he's got as many wins today as Kyle Shanahan does, 39 apiece. So whatever you want to say about him, coaching the star player is part of the job. and that is what he's doing. It's he's still managing people. And I do think I think they've gotten better than they were in 2019, and he gets credit for that.
100%.
Right?
Add the run game has clearly been a huge addition to that team, which is something that he learned under Kyle. I think that I'm a sucker for the coaching connections. I mean, you and I aren't going to talk about it as much, but like in the Kansas City and Buffalo, I would imagine if you and I were hosting a radio show in Kansas City, Sean McDermott's career started as Andy Reid's assistant, not his quality control, his assistant. When you're his assistant, you literally just are his assistant, like, hey, go pick up my dry cleaning. And that's a role that Andy has that Doug Peterson, actually, I think Doug skipped that. Brett Veach started at that. Brett Veach, I think it went Sean McDermott, it went James, I think the quarterback coach for the Ravens now, and then Veach. That role was a starter into stardom. Now,
Brett Veach is the general manager of the Chiefs now.
Started as Andy Reid's assistant, and Sean McDermott worked his way up and eventually became Andy Reid's defensive coordinator after Jim Johnson passed away from cancer. But and Andy, I would say that Andy is the most famous coach, because he's been doing it the longest, of having successful tree, right? Just having guys that like John Harbaugh, Ron Rivera, Sean McDermott, Doug Peterson, even like Matt Nagy wasn't like some Tom Sula, where Belichick's kind of the opposite. I think Kyle feels like the younger, and really Mike, they all worked for Mike, but Kyle kept getting jobs and bringing the crew with him. It does feel like Kyle's the young, skinny version of Andy, where just his guys, you just watch them talk on their own. You go, yeah, these guys are pretty impressive. I can see why. Like, he does a good job. And now we've had the opportunity to see, they transitioned pretty smoothly from Robert Saleh to DeMeco Ryans, a guy who's getting head coach. You get credit for that. Andy went through it time and time again. It's really hard. I give Belichick credit. They don't do well when they leave him, but he does a good job developing.
And they don't come back.
Josh did.
But
yeah, they don't.
Yeah, I mean, maybe is Gerard Mayo going to become a head coach at some point? But I was thinking about this today. If you said, okay, let's draft the coaches in the Elite Eight here: Zach Taylor, Mike Vrabel, McDermott, Andy Reid, McVay. I mean, this bracket is ridiculous. McVay, Shanahan, LaFleur, and Arians. I think if we did a bunch of simulations of GMs, not just 32, but simulated 1,000 times, I think Andy would probably go first the most, especially
with all-time playoff victories.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could make the case that Kyle should go second. Now, McVay obviously has a better winning percentage. You could make the case that McVay should go second. Vrabel's brought this team. There's only two guys, and it's Vrabel and Shanahan, who I think are in the playoffs this year without a future. Now, I'm going to be a little over the top. Hall of Fame quarterback. Is Joe Burrow going to make it to the Hall of Fame? Is Josh Allen going to make it to the Hall of Fame? We'll see. But I would say they've got all the Hall of Fame tools. Vrabel and Shanahan are the only guys left without that at quarterback right now, right? So, but I think you could absolutely argue, just based on this year, maybe someone would really believe in Vrabel. Arians has a very impressive resume. McVay, the thing with McVay, as good as it's been, Kyle's beat him 6 times in a row. So we can debate it. I'm not saying it's not debatable. I'm not saying it's obvious. But you could legitimately take Kyle second in what is a group where you could argue
Sean McDermott's doing a pretty good job over there.
Hell yeah. I mean, John, they all you could argue every one of these guys, probably except Zach Taylor, to be fair. And that's not hating on Zach Taylor. You could argue any one of them probably in the top 3, but you just wouldn't take Zach ahead of LaFleur, McVay, or Shanahan.
I would say Zach would consistently be a consistent last of the group.
Yeah. But you could absolutely argue most of these guys in the top. It's an incredible group of coaches that's in the playoffs.
Well, do you think, I just looked, LaFleur, you and I talked about this before we jumped on, has 2 playoff victories. And I just looked, I was like, what does Vrabel have? He only has 2. But you get to skip around when you have the home field advantage. Do you get credit for not having to play in the first? He didn't have to fuck around last week. He got to drink beers and eat dinner, right?
Yeah, you do.
And it's same
Patricia came back, yeah.
Same with, but really, Patricia took over. Remember, Ernie Adams retired, and they just put him into that.
He didn't really have a spot, right? He wasn't going somewhere else.
But yeah, exactly. Nobody wanted him. He was toxic. This is a fantastic group. I think if you remove Arians and Andy, who are, Arians is old, Andy's older, 60, 62. the young group, right? If Vrabel's, what is Mike? Mike he's a little older, 46.
44? Oh.
So he's 46. All the other guys are 42 and younger. It's a fantastic, and I think Sean McDermott's probably 46, 47 years old. It's a fantastic group of young coaches, like just high level. I would say McDermott and Vrabel, they just don't get put on the pedestal because of the side of the ball they coach, but clearly both guys are born ass kickers. I mean, I've been around Sean McDermott. He is like the one, David Goggins, who's always running and lifting. Like, McDermott's less of the fluff. And I think Goggins is being serious when he's saying it, but he's a preacher kind of. Like, McDermott's not into that, but in terms of guys up every morning at like 3:45, he would never have a piece of processed food during the 6 months he's coaching. His locked-in discipline, where to me Vrabel's probably a little less disciplined with some of that shit, but in terms of football discipline, those two guys, if they were calling offensive plays, we would just be talking about them like the other three guys. But they're defensive guys. They talk like coverages and pass rush.
Yeah.
You just, for whatever reason, you just don't quite get anointed. And I would say Andy is kind of just gone into, we even think about him more as just a head coach, CEO, encompasses it all, right? He's just the boss.
But he is the play caller, right?
But kind of. I think Bieniemy calls the plays now sometimes.
I think the thing that's surprising about this whole exercise, if you want to call it that, is that McDermott's only 5 years older than Shanahan. My perception of McDermott is more Mike Zimmer category, like took until he's 58 to get his job. How old was Mike when he got his job? Whatever it was.
Yeah.
But that's not the case with Sean. Like,
for a guy who started as his assistant at probably 23 or 24 years old.
For a guy who started before that at William and Mary to become a head coach in the NFL in 19 years, that's a long time. And Sean worked a lot of hard hours, right? I'm sure you would know. But 19 years from William and Mary to NFL head coach is still a pretty, I wouldn't call it fast, but that's a pretty good track, right?
You know Sean McDermott's teammate at William and Mary?
1998.
Head coach in the NFL as well.
Staley's too young.
Swagged out.
Tomlin?
Baller. Mike Tomlin. They were teammates at William and Mary.
Swagged out. It was either him or Skip Bayless.
I think Tomlin is obviously a little older than him, but they crossed over, I think, a couple years.
Wow.
I do think sometimes, in a weird way, like the football gods, they gravitate towards certain smaller schools, right? You're just William and Mary, and I don't like Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott. I don't think knew it at the time, right? John Carroll. I was lucky enough to be at one at Fresno State. If you coach or work at a Notre Dame, at an Alabama, at the USC, you're going to have a pipeline. But for whatever reason, certain schools there's like an opening from the football gods of like, there is going to be a bridge for you to walk across if you want it and take it. But like the difference of William and Mary and like UC Davis was that for a long period of time for these guys that wanted to coach Division I, right? But Cal Poly never was. So it's just there's a randomness, and I do think it all starts like with the human, whoever the top at the pyramid was. Like forever with Andy and Mooch and Gruden and all those guys, it was Mike Holmgren. It was this guy from the Bay Area that somehow they all got to meet, and everyone. And you see this. I think all the Shanahan guys would say, like, we're very, very lucky that Mike Shanahan wanted to recoach at Washington. Because the other thing that happened is that Kyle had a sweet job because Kubiak and that team was kind of up and coming, and you could tell, like, they were onto something, and he left to go join his dad. And he's talked about it since. Like, it was just something that, who knows? It was it was a unique opportunity here to coach with my dad. But then the changes it made to all these human beings, right?
I know. Al on the stream says Shanahan LaFleur handshake at the end of this game. I mean, the handshake, having rewatched the handshake today, there was no eye contact, and it was they zip. If there wasn't, I didn't get a view of the handshake, but if there was a handshake, it was like there's no way there wasn't a grab,
Well, there was a silver thread that morning, correct?
Silver talked about, and then Kyle was angry about what LaFleur was angry about. Do you remember the thread exactly? Kyle walked into the room and they were talking.
So it was
Sunday, brother was in there.
This game was Sunday Night Football, correct? Yep, NBC.
Yes. Yeah.
So a thread, it might not even have come out first thing in the morning. Maybe it did during the day. but it was a phone call with his brother on FaceTime. Oh, he was with the Jets talking to McDaniel, right, during the draft period.
And I think maybe Saleh was there too.
Saleh was there, and McDaniel's like, "What are you guys fucking doing?" And they're just bullshitting. And then Kyle walks by, gets in on the shit talking, messing around, and then he goes, "What quarterback are you going to draft? Aaron Rodgers or something? Or I hear you guys are going to trade for Aaron Rodgers."
Yeah, you already got your quarterback, is what Mike LaFleur said.
And didn't Kyle like storm out of the room or something?
Kyle said, tell your brother to call me back. He hasn't returned my calls. And LaFleur said, can you blame him? At that point, several people familiar with the call said Shanahan got visibly upset and hastily left the room.
So was he mad that it was even being talked about, or that LaFleur wouldn't call him back about Rodgers?
I think he was mad that they were talking about Kyle like he had done something sneaky.
Gotcha. Like he was being shady operator.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't know what you guys are.
What I think is, let's just call a spade. More than likely, Aaron Rodgers indirectly reached out to the Niners and said, "Come get me."
That's how Rodgers and Lynch have the same agent.
Okay, so there's some back channel work, and
so
it kind of came out of nowhere.
Is that even a back channel? I mean,
but it also felt like this isn't something that like built up. Like there's some rumblings in late March leading into early April. It was like 2 days before the draft, they get a text or a call like, "Bro, Aaron Rodgers wants in," and Aaron's sitting drinking his cocktail like, "I'm gonna fuck with Goody and the Packers." It was, let's face it, Rodgers created this whole stir. The Niners didn't think of this out. Like, they would never have called if Rodgers didn't, alert them. And I don't blame LaFleur for being like, "Fuck you, I'm not trading you." Under the last team, I don't care what happens this weekend, what rumors come, Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur will get fired before, I don't care how many picks, how many Trey Lances and Jimmy Garoppolo, they will never, ever in a million years, especially because there's no owner that will ever force their hand, trade Aaron Rodgers to the San Francisco 49ers. That's never been an option. No matter, obviously, I think Aaron would have wanted it. I do think he, it made sense, like jump to the Niners, it will never happen. Do you agree with that? Like they would. I would say fire me before I said, "Hey, Kyle, here, give me 4 1s and Trey Lance."
Yes, I would agree with you. The only way it would ever even be considered is if those guys think Trey Lance is a generational quarterback, right? If they think he's the next, like we are sure he's the next Josh Allen, we'll have to eat it. But man, we're going to hold it over their heads for the next 15 years. But how
feel the 2 games he played to have that thought and feel that confident getting rid of the MVP of the league would be impossible.
Yeah, to me, like there's only a handful of quarterbacks that anyone's ever like. Are you trading me Peyton Manning? Because that's how I feel about Peyton Manning. Okay. Are you trading me Andrew Luck? And even then, as you know, like these things are not guaranteed. It would be, impossible. And I even think one notch below that is them trading him anywhere else.
You just say
I just don't think they're trading him. I mean, this is not Favre. Because
here's the thing.
Jordan Love is not Aaron Rodgers.
Remember last year they had an incredible season. They were awesome. 13-3, the number 1 seed for the first time. They were hosting the NFC Championship like they're doing again. But last year was the first time they'd done that in Aaron Rodgers' career. And then they had a devastating loss. Because the one thing I keep wrapping my head around, and listen, I would not pick the Niners to win this week. It would be incredible if they did. It would be a moment that it would be hard for Kyle to ever top it, because even if next week they beat a Bucs team or a Rams team, people would believe they could win if they won this game. Like I think most people, and I'm on several text chains, I'm sure you are too. It's like people are pretty happy to be here. Last week was incredible to win a playoff game. How murky it looked after the Titans game. How crazy it looked at halftime at SoFi. We're like 17-3. You're looking like, what is the Falcons score? 30-10. Oh, we're fucked. Everyone's thinking that. So you win this game, people start thinking you can win the Super Bowl. But the one thing with Rodgers is he's kind of like, if he were to lose this game and get beat by the Niners, I could see him then making it weird again on them. And I don't know what the end result of that means, but I could just see him just making it weird again with some.
Yeah,
of,
and
you
it
know,
could
the
be
way he
something
does.
yet to happen, right? It could be the game ends in a way where like it did the last time, where it was a decision to kick a field goal, right?
Down
Um,
8, yeah, with like 3 timeouts, 2
so
minutes. I
I
think it
think
was
that's
like
a good point.
2:30.
That's a good point. I wonder if that comes into the decision making. Like, let's not do anything to make Aaron weird over
Well,
the course of this game.
because I keep thinking about and you felt it last week. The intensity of the playoffs it's like Game 7 because it's just football. It's one and done. There is no tomorrow, and like all the pressure's on the Packers.
Well, that's
Like,
what everyone. But see, I'm glad you said that because I've gotten multiple texts like that. Like, all the pressure's on them. It's like, okay, well,
you don't want to lose, and once you're in the game, if you're up 10-7 in the fourth quarter, you don't want to
feel like
lose.
all the pressure was on the Cowboys at the end of that game. I'll tell you that much.
No, but once you have a lead, then the pressure's on you. But going into the game, you do agree the pressure is on the Packers to win. They're the number 1 overall seed. They have the MVP of the league.
I mostly agree with that, but I also will say, not fully tongue in cheek. Like I mean this. When you're in the Elite 8, like when you think of it that way, I think it's easy to think of it like you just won one game, cool. When you look at the bracket and go, you're in the Elite 8, you win one more game and you're in the conference championship game. That feels very different because, like, you heard Kyle Shanahan, Alex Mack before the Rams game, like talked to the team about how he didn't go to the playoffs till his 6th year in the league, or maybe it'd been longer than that, whatever it was for him.
We started on the Browns, right? So he didn't win anything for a while.
So just when you're in this spot, yeah, I guess, yes, the Packers have more pressure. They're the 1 seed. But I just think anytime you're in this position, you don't know how many times you're going to be in this spot. There's a lot of pressure on you.
Well, let's just focus on the NFC. If we did the pressure rankings, I think by far, like, I got news for you. Tom Brady, now, he has pressure because every single year they're trying to win the Super Bowl. He's Super Bowl or bust. But if he loses this weekend, they just won the Super Bowl last year. He's won 7. The Tampa Bay now has become a power. You know, the Rams, like Matt Stafford, that was his first ever playoff victory. The Packers are clearly, this guy has only won 1 Super Bowl. You and I talked about it forever with Peyton Manning. It's like, God, Peyton Manning is too good of a quarterback to only have 1 Super Bowl. And finally he got it, and he didn't even get it in the peak of his powers, but as time has gone on, no one even cares. Like, he's a multiples. To me, Aaron Rodgers falls under the Peyton Manning category, Elway category, Joe Montana, Tom Brady. Like, he should have multiple Super Bowls. And now he's, again, like last year, in the driver's seat, big favorite now, 6. But I also think you got to factor in the Niners coming off a short week now, so you get a short week. Their best player is in concussion protocol. You're at home in Lambeau. I do believe, I'm with you. Like, every team this weekend, probably beside the Bengals, is thinking like, we're in house money. And I bet even if you were sitting here having a, Gatorade with Joe Burrow today on Tuesday afternoon, he's planning on winning the game. But to me, there is a tangible, just pressure vibe on the Packers, which when they're winning, you don't feel it. You're rolling. But when you start losing a little bit, because unlike the Cowboys, there were like questions. Are they mentally tough enough? Can they physically hang? Are they well coached enough? To me, the Packers are like, can they win the Super Bowl? Like, that's just it's not like, do they have the guys? Yeah, they do. Like,
I think it never comes up with Rodgers, or I shouldn't say never. It doesn't really come up that much with Rodgers, the word legacy, for whatever reason. I think because people just already talk about him like one of the greatest ever, which he is. But I think it's partly that. I also think it's partly, it just always feels like the Packers, one little bit of wind could throw them off course because of Aaron, right? Like, is something bad going to happen? They lose, and then Aaron creates another problem for them. So it's partly that. Like, there is this tension, I think, that lies underneath the Packers. I mean, him and Davante Adams you remember like 8 years ago when The Last Dance was taking the world by storm? Davante and Aaron, it was not that long ago, but Davante and Aaron, there was like the last dance. Wasn't that The Last Dance post? Davante and Aaron Rodgers, Scottie Pippen, and Michael Jordan.
Well, because wasn't it that was Aaron going to show up at training camp or not? And then he finally shows up, and like that day, or maybe the night before, they both post it. Wasn't that it?
Yeah.
I mean, Davante's even he said Davante's is the best player he's ever played with. That's, to me, the Cowboys did not have. They had some equal, like I think CeeDee Lamb's a star, even though he didn't do anything. Obviously Parsons, who's young. I mean, they got some really good players. But the Niners, even and definitely once the game plays, like the Niners had the better players. Like they have clearly the better quarterback, and you would say Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in the league. So it's just easier for him. Like if Trent Williams is the best left tackle in the league, ultimately like you can move guys to the other side and stuff. Like they can just throw it to Devontae like every play. And they kind of did last game, right? He had a huge game.
They also threw it over the top to Valdez-Scantling and over the top to Alan Lazard, and they targeted 27. So they had a lot.
Devontae had 12 for 132.
He got knocked out of the game, and then he came back.
Oh yeah.
That was halfway through the fourth quarter. He got hit. I thought it was over.
Across the middle,
and came back and had the big catch before the game-winning field goal.
I might watch that tonight. I had forgotten when Kyle said, I think Eric Branch is like, well, you guys had 81 yards in pass interference. And Kyle's like, no, we actually had 116 yards. So they know the number.
I think 81 was the accepted number of penalty yards because if you check the box score, it was 81. So that's where that came from. But, yeah, I think it was 116.
So some of those are like the guy caught it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't watch didn't watch like the last minute. But
well, they definitely on the game-winning drive they just hit the two plays, right?
That's right.
He just hit the play.
I think
that was when didn't Devontae come back from the concussion and hit the sweet play over the middle,
right over Fred Warner's fingertips.
I'm not exactly Belichick here with zone defense concepts, but it's pretty clear that their linebackers, for being really athletic, are always really close in zone defense, but a little off.
By the way, unrelated to any of that, you know how old Azeez Al-Shire is?
24.
Yeah. Younger than he looks because he's got the big, 38-year-old arm brace on. But, FAU, I think, undrafted, was coming off an ACL his senior year. He tore his ACL his last year of college. So his first year in the NFL was his first recovery year. Then his next year was 2020, and now here he is 2021, a legitimately good football player.
They
really
got
valuable.
Their linebacking core, Fred's 25, those two guys are 24, him and Greenlaw. That's a pretty good little group.
Yeah.
They're flying around crushing folks.
Yeah. This really is the matchup that Cowboys-Niners from I think just a historical 90s. Cowboys-Packers, look at this note. Since 1980, this was in the Niners preview for this week. The most playoff games played since 1980. The Patriots 55, the Niners 48, the Packers 44, and the Steelers 44. And we could go through division wins, playoff wins, obviously Super Bowl wins, which heavily weight to the 80s. The Niners and the Packers are near each other, near the top of more lists than the Niners and the Cowboys are.
Well, we were talking, obviously last week we talked a lot about it. You and I were bullshitting before we jumped on. To me, this is a rivalry. And a rivalry is created by how many times you actually play a team, right? Part of the reason the Warriors and LeBron became a rivalry is they played each other every year. Aaron Rodgers, who, has basically for the last decade been a top 2 or 3 player in the league, it rotated a little bit, him, Manning, Brady, whatever. They've played him. This is going to be the 4th time they've played Aaron Rodgers in a playoff game. And two of the last... They've played him in the championship. I guess they've only played him in the NFC championship the one time, but they've played him in this round. They played him in the wild card round the one time in the cold game. They played him in the NFC the second round one time, and they're obviously playing him this year in the second round again. That's a big deal. 4 times in a decade? That's a lot, guy.
I think it's frequency. Like you said, it's also, did you take something from somebody? You have to take something. It can't be one-sided, and this thing is not one-sided.
Well, he beat him every time. He's never beat the 49ers in the playoffs.
But the Niners, he beat. I think when you're right, in the playoff way, it is one-sided. But if you go back, don't turn the game off today until the game post-handshake. The Packers are celebrating, not like a week 3 win celebration.
Well, remember how high he jumped on the sideline? I remember that, watching the game live. Aaron jumped when, what's-his-name, hit the kick. Who had, he's not as quite as shaky as Dallas's guys, but he's missed some kicks over the last couple years.
Yeah. No, you're right. It is, from a playoff standpoint, it is one-sided.
What do you think the reason, my question would be, the reason they celebrated that game, part of it is because they took, the Niners had taken the lead. So they had to drive the field,
Totally.
It's a big deal to beat the Niners. I mean, at
But
the time, the
it
Niners
felt
were
like
viewed,
they're not on the ground dogpiling, but they are NCAA tournament jumping around. We just hit a buzzer beater in the end zone celebration.
that was so the Niners were 2-0, huh? That was week 3.
Packers were
That was
1-1.
That was a big game for Green Bay.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Then the Niners just started rattling off L's.
Well, I mean, it's part of why I think the Niners are underrated coming into this game a little bit. I think the Packers are very good. I think Devontae's terrifying. I think what we saw with the secondary last time, I know there's all the talk about, Kyle Shanahan got asked, your secondary is improved, and it has. But, I mean, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, you don't play them every week. They are part of what, expose you a little bit. And there were some forgotten things in that game, like, Trey Lance was Trey Lance scored a touchdown. Trey Sermon was the starting running back in that game. That was the third worst rushing performance the Niners had all year from a yards per carry. They were 3.2 yards per carry. 2 of the 3 worst rushing performances they had were games that Trey Sermon started. And he had a couple of good runs, and he scored a touchdown in that game. But Elijah Mitchell was not available. Jeff Wilson Jr. was not available. Debo was still a month and a half away from becoming a wide back. Is that what you call that? What he called himself? A wide. I mean, he ran the ball a couple times on end arounds there, but it was different. So I think that's the first reason the Niners are a little underrated this week. Their run game is much better than it was then.
They lose Saturday night if they rush for 6-7 yards, right?
They don't have a shot. They have to be this version of themselves. And the Packers are not a great run stopping team. I think the other thing, Bosa was big in that game, even though he didn't get a sack. He was everywhere. The Niners' ability to rush the passer has just, I think, gotten better and better and better every week, it feels like. So I think the Packers are probably better.
As of right now, he's no lock. Even Kyle's they ask him, he's like, I think he'll be ready, but you never know with concussion. You just do not know.
No.
That
Concussion
would be a
protocol.
Major blow if he's not able to clear.
It would be.
I mean, clearly, but I'm just saying, that would be. It's one thing, the momentum of a game like last week. If you said Nick Bosa's not able to play, I'd be like, that's tough.
Somebody in the chat, a couple people in the chat are saying Ayuk was in the doghouse. Watch the game. I don't know I didn't even bother with the box score. Ayuk made some impactful plays in that game, the first game.
4 for 37 and a touchdown.
Yeah, and he made a big third down catch. So he was good in that game. But I think they're underrated because of how, if you use the first game as some kind of indication, the Packers are 29th in defensive yards per game. They're 28th in defensive rushing DVOA. Sorry, 29th in defensive yards per carry per game. So it's not their strength. It's not their strength.
The Niners must have had a fumble in that game too, huh? So Jimmy had a pick and a fumble?
It was the throw, try and pull it down. It goes backwards. Weird fumble. Yeah. You remember the play against the Cowboys where he threw the ball to Elijah Mitchell into the screen? He had a similar play. It was different, but air mails a ball to Debo as the defender's bearing down, and Debo's 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Yeah.
His completion percentage on guys 5 to 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage that are going to lead to 2nd and 17 on a completion is really high. He leads the league. Nobody's better at completing a ball on 1st and 10 that leads to 2nd and 16, and getting credit for a completion. They did get, even he tried the one to Kittle. Luckily, that thing hit the ground. That would have been a disaster. That might have been the game.
Yeah. But I think having Elijah Mitchell back and Debo as
I think the Niners should hope it snows, right? They want the conditions to be shitty. I think that is where historically teams like the 49ers, if you're just built on running the ball and playing defense. I was listening to Rick Spielman, DJ, they had him on, the GM that for the Vikings that just got fired, and they were talking about just sat and watched games last week, and he's talking about top 10 quarterbacks, and DJ's like, yeah, we amended the way you have to have a top 10 quarterback to win playoff games unless Kyle Shanahan's calling offense for you. And even Rick was like, the one thing Jimmy, just on big spots, obviously he wasn't talking about Kirk Cousins, but I think his subtle digs on Kirk Cousins is Obviously you want a top 5, 10 quarterback, but you also need a guy, if he's not a top 10 quarterback, if the guy can just be successful in key spots, and you would just say Jimmy can be on like 3rd and 8. Like he can complete a ball in a tie game in a fourth quarter to George Kittle on 3rd and 8. Where that's where like the bottom 15 quarterbacks, sometimes they crumble in that situation. To me, if they can run the ball and Jimmy can just be on the situational football solid, they have a chance to win it. It starts with running the football, and then it goes with Jimmy, just being good in the situational spots. Like on 2nd and 8, on that ball when he runs, was rolling out that he threw the pick in Dallas. Like I would say when Jimmy's good, sometimes he just doesn't pull the trigger, but he never throws it away. That is not Jimmy.
It hit me when we were watching that play. Like he never throws it away.
He's not a throwaway quarterback.
Usually the ball's out of his hands too. He's not normally in that spot, just like hanging out by the numbers, right? Rolling out. The ball's usually out, or he gets sacked.
Yeah, you could say,
or he runs
like
forward.
Josh Allen and Mahomes, right? When they keep plays alive, you're like in a good spot. I would say the longer Jimmy has to keep the play alive, it's when it gets scarier, right? When he's kind of scrambling and pointing, you're like, oh God,
yeah.
We sure everyone's doing. Kyle's just like, throw the ball to the ground. That's where to me, and you're not, Leopard doesn't change his spots, right? Jimmy's a 30-year-old veteran now. But to me, the number one key thing you're talking about all week is like, we cannot the turnover battle. Just looking at the stats they lost 30-28, and they lost the turnover battle 2-0. Like I would say the thing with Kyle and Jimmy over the last several years, it's crazy how often they're losing the turnover battle and still competing. Like that is like you were talking about LaFleur, how it really is hard to judge him. Like he has this guy who's like one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, who literally does not turn the ball over at all.
Best in the league.
Of like all time. Who's that good? Because you just look at like Manning stats, Brady stats, like those guys throw some picks. This guy does not throw picks. How many picks does he have the last couple years? Remember even the year they got Jordan Love, he had like 3 picks that year. He does not throw interceptions. I swear to God, I mean, if you just watch football, you end up watching a lot of Rodgers. I feel like he doesn't even throw that many interceptable balls.
He's thrown this year 4, last year 5. He's thrown double-digit interceptions twice in his career, not since 2010. That was the last time he did it.
So since LaFleur's been there, he's 4-5-4. He's thrown 8. What's 8 plus 5? 13. How many picks did Jimmy Garoppolo have this year?
Probably 13.
Yeah. So Aaron Rodgers in the last 3 years has thrown 13 interceptions. I bet Trevor Lawrence had like a 7-game stretch where he threw 13 interceptions this year.
That's pretty incredible. I don't, here's the other thing,
you feel like he throws that many balls into compromising spots when you watch?
No.
They get a lot of guys wide open.
I don't feel like he might be the least stressful thrower. Are you ever stressed once he lets it go?
Jimmy threw 12, so Aaron, 1 more over a 3-year span.
Is that just regular season stat? Or does that include the Cowboy game? I guess we're not counting Aaron's postseason, though.
Yeah, regular season 12.
Yeah. Now, the other thing was, if you go back and watch it, the Packers actually effectively ran the ball, especially early in that game. I remember watching and then rewatching. The run game for them was not terrible. And they were getting some chunks early that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And they can run the football. Like that's like the Niners are not. That's just part of playing your guy, right? LaFleur and for Shanahan, the Niners aren't the only ones that have. Like you would think Aaron would be, 2nd or 3rd in the league. I mean, they were 258 a game passing. Like they run the ball relative to their ranks. Like they're ranked higher as a running team in terms of just gross yardage than they are as a passing team.
You remember when the Jordan Love draft happened? They got double shit on. Everyone destroyed the Jordan Love pick and just the drama that it brought. But then in the 2nd round, Gutekunst drafted A.J. Dillon, this like big, thick, who was the guy that used to played for Seattle for a little bit. Jamel Hill said I was calling him fat. Eddie Lacy.
Eddie Lacy, yeah.
And this guy was this big, powerful guy out of Boston College. And everyone was shitting on the Packers. And I remember I had a friend who's like, bro, this guy's good. I don't know. And then they had Jamal Williams, who's now in the Lions, who was going to be a free agent, that year. So they needed some reinforcements. If you've watched A.J. Dillon this year, Guy is a load. And Aaron Jones is clearly just, you would say, their second best skill guy. Devontae's 1, he's 2. This guy is really good. And the one thing, LaFleur, where I give him a lot of credit, and I know a lot of people question, like, how good really is he with Aaron Rodgers? He's instituted the Shanahan run game. And Aaron's bought into it, and it's led him to winning back-to-back MVP. Like, their offense is so well-balanced. And I think A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, they, like, complement each other perfectly. One guy, I would say Aaron Jones is more of a true, like, Shanahan guy, one cut, can catch the ball, just a really good player, just a all-around good running back. I would say A.J. Dillon's a little bit like of a throwback of a guy like in the 90s you would see just like low in his shoulder, kind of chubby and just but athletic as shit and breaking tackles. Like now the Niners, you would say they got 3 sweet linebackers that can all tackle. Their D-line just causes havoc. The run game, they feel pretty confident playing teams that want to run it. They're actually, you would say, much less equipped to face a team that wants to like Mahomes and Andy like in a dome in a Super Bowl. That would be a problem.
Yeah, but if I told you both teams just run the hell out of the ball, who does that favor?
No, that's what you want. But I'm saying the Packers, if they're smart, like you just like last game, you run for 100 yards to keep some balance in your offense, but you win throwing the ball. Like can you get Devontae on Ambry? Can you get Devontae, even Mosley? Like I like Mosley, but he's not a lockdown corner. Like you can go like Devontae Adams can get 150 on him pretty easily.
Yeah. Can you get C.J. Goodwin on Josh Norman? Just broke him off, John. Great route. C.J. Goodwin has never caught a pass in the NFL until he caught the fake punt for the Cowboys the other day. Sorry, didn't mean to get off track there.
Hightower said it was a great route.
Great route. Well, this guy's never caught. He's been targeted once in his life.
What did you think about Hightower's comments about last week? A couple plays were just a little bump in the road.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate that. I thought it was an inaccurate description.
What would you say a bump in the road special teams game would be? Like a couple missed tackles, maybe?
A bump in the road. Yeah, a bump in the road.
Poor snap or something.
Yeah. I don't know if there's such a thing as a bump in the road in a playoff game.
With special teams?
Well, in like a game that came down to a team spiking the ball at the 20-yard line with 1 second left, no seconds left. Like, there's no bump in the road. Every play, bump in the road is week 7 is a bump in the road. Something bump in the road. Anything that happens in a playoff game is just.
But you could even argue non-playoff game. If you give up a fake punt for a first down, that's a pretty big moment in a tight game.
That's what I mean. Right? Like, I don't even know what a bump in the road would be. Bump in the road maybe is like you try 8 field goals. One of them, there's like a weird snap, but you still get it down and it works. But nothing that fails can be a bump in the road in a playoff game. You know what I mean?
So the trajectory is with the units been pointing up.
Well, I do think, Trenton Cannon had a really good return in the first Packer game. Looked fast. He almost returned it for a touchdown. It was the kicker stopped him.
Was it the following week then against Seattle where he does the double fumbles, I think?
Yeah. Because they played back-to-back primetime games, right, against those two teams. Seattle was primetime also.
If I'm going to be a Hightower defender, I can live with roughing the punter. Now, in a game you have a lead in the second half, that's probably one of like, hey guys, do we want to be super aggressive? You could argue the semantics on like, is it the time to be being aggressive? Yes. But like you would always want your teams to lean being aggressive. Now you could argue like McCarthy said the same thing as guys were jumping off sides every other play for the defense.
Well, I mean, Randy Gregory was very aggressive in the game, yes.
To me, a fake punt and it's a pretty obvious fake punt where everyone's like, they're probably faking it sometime here, guys.
They knew it was coming. They kept their defense on the field. I mean, they give them credit. I'm not being sarcastic. They'd self-scouted. Like, they know, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of McDaniel clips going viral, I think, this week. And I think a large reason is because he's kind of in the mix right now. And, other teams, just being a part of like coaching searches. If you're on the side of the coaching search, you're like, let's do some investigative research on what this guy sounds like. And he's got some just great moments. And everything is like, he gave one today that went viral that was like the reason why they block so well. He's like, everyone doesn't understand the reason we block so well. He's like, the reason we block so well, because we have a period on Thursday, and then we re-show it on Friday, and we make an emphasis in the meetings where we show the run period with the wide receivers blocking. He's like, you get what you emphasize. And Kyle is such a smart coach, and he clearly is just, the guys love him. He's the offensive coordinator, but clearly what he stands for on defense carries over. He does not give a shit about special teams. Now, maybe this season he doesn't have time to worry about it. His evolution as a coach is he has to figure out, and to me, it's not just like you hire Rich Biscaccia or Brad Seeley or whoever, a bunch of coaches have been fired. You hire Joe Judge, whatever. You have to emphasize it. Like, I think the defensive guys know that, like, Jimmy Ward knows, like, Kyle is on me to make plays. I would imagine the special teams, like, they just don't even think he's paying attention. Like, it has to start with him. He has to just make it feel like those guys think it matters to him. Because I think the defensive guys, even though he does not call defensive plays, feel that defense matters to Kyle Shanahan. The special teams clearly is just thrown to the side. And he even said as much.
When they drafted Mitch Wishnowsky.
No, I'm saying, like,
no, I'm not being funny.
Week,
like, when they drafted Mitch, he's like, I hope I never have to watch that again.
Oh, yeah. He's admitted it. Do you agree, though, he needs to
I think
at least
my guess is, John, they
emphasize it.
My guess, Trent Williams talked to the special teams group last week.
So he's using some curveballs, having stuff like that happen?
My guess is he's trying to adapt on the fly, and I will not make that mistake again. Yeah.
Whose idea you think it was for Trent to talk?
I mean, either Trent's or would Kyle pick Trent Williams to go talk to the special teams unit? It's kind of an interesting. He's just a leader, so leaders do leader things.
Well, I could also see just like it's one special teams is the one that you're like really, it's less about plays and schematics and more just heart and effort.
Yeah.
Where you just like get our biggest badass to get in front and give I've never been here, give whatever you take. He's not even Kyle's like, yeah, he's probably never played special teams in his life. I think it's one of those just to kind of scare everyone. Like, we better be on our P's and Q's. I would bet $500 right now that's just one of those late night. Kyle's like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Like, fuck, just have Trent get in front of him and just like give him a little rah rah. Like, and he goes to Trent like, hey man, could you say something to these guys? He's like, fuck yeah, I'll say whatever you want me to say. And I give him credit for trying, but that's the type thing where. And again, Belichick's way older and coach special teams, and Coughlin's coach special teams. It's something that starts in the offseason. Like, Kyle, you just got to go to a special teams meeting. Like, you got to maybe not be playing. And listen, I don't blame you. I play grab ass at practice, but like playing grab ass with John Lynch during the special teams period.
He talks to Debo all the time.
During special teams. Do you think
Kyle needs to run down on special teams the way he throws passes?
Do you think it's easier for Bill to be on special teams because he's coached special teams, and so he knows the value of it, and it matters to him?
Absolutely. I think it's always easier to criticize something it's easy to criticize something you don't know, don't get me wrong. But if you're really looking the people in the eye, they know very quickly if you don't know what you don't know. And I think Shanahan probably, the stuff he knows, he really knows inside and out, right? He can talk run game with Alex Mack. He can talk it with Emmitt Smith. He can talk with anybody. Special teams, probably he's not as comfortable doing that. And so he doesn't, maybe. I don't know.
Well, in my experience around Coach Reed, I'm not trying to act like it's not normal what Kyle's doing. Andy wasn't like losing sleep over like being at special teams practice. But I'd say this, what he did in Kansas City is he went and hired Dave Tobe, who, our guy Cameron Worrell played for him. I think he's widely considered, like him and Harbaugh, the best special teams coaches. And I'm not even trying to act like Andy's big into it now, but clearly he hired the best guy, paid him a lot of money, and they've just had a good unit, right? So if Kyle, if worst case scenario, if you're not going to even attempt, and listen, if he doesn't want to do it, you do need to be like, well, hey, can we take $1.5 million and go hire Rich, go hire whoever, Joe Judge, right? Say what you want about Joe Judge. Like, he did coach special teams for Bill Belichick. I would say one thing for Joe Judge, he knows special teams. You do, if you're not going to fuck with it, you better place a premium because you're too good. Like, it's clear. You're too good. You got too many good players. You're going to be in too many of these big games. You naturally play in just batshit crazy games anyway. So did Harbaugh. And it was a huge point of difference. Well, except the one time, and no one even blamed him. It was like kind of a freak deal. The guy just couldn't catch the punts, right?
Kyle Williams, yeah. I mean, remember what Dante Whitner told us? We asked him. He's like, he brought up the Harbaugh teams. Like, the best players of those Niner teams played on special teams. Now, that's hard. You've had a bunch of injuries this year. COVID. the Niners can't get one or two returners. I mean, every game it's two different guys returning punts, right?
That's a Belichick thing, and Brad learned that from Belichick, and I bet Harbaugh loved it.
Something to be said for it. Now, it's tough. Like, I don't,
You're going to put Alshire and Fred Warner covering.
You got Alshire's out there being held together by plastic. So
Greenlaw's pulling hammies, running down, covering kickoffs.
Groin, it's always something. It's just a tough sport. I get why it's hard to do that. I do get. John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about Indeed. Indeed.com/ham. Well, right now, you get a $75 sponsored job credit when you upgrade your post at Indeed.com/ham.
Listen, man, if you're hiring, or ladies, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality candidates that meet your must-have requirements. And it's so easy, guy. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates with the right job skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. With instant match, as soon as you sponsor a post at Indeed.com/ham, you get a short list of quality candidates with resumes on Indeed that match your job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. Plus, you only pay for quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. No big deal.
Nope. I mean, think about the process right now. You think Mark Davis could use Indeed.com/ham if Harbaugh doesn't take his job? How is he going to do all this stuff? How is he going to get the people that do exactly what he needs? And how is he going to get to the bottom of it? Right? You got to attract, you got to interview, you got to hire, you got to do it all in one place. You think the Vikings could use Indeed? They're trying to interview DeMeco Ryans while he's preparing on a short week for a playoff game?
Don't like that.
I mean, everything you do is about people evaluation. Putting the right people in your life, bringing the right people around you into your company. I wish you could just take this to the bar and go Indeed.com/ham and start sifting through friends when you're freshman year in college, trying to figure out who should I hang with, which one of my roommates isn't insane. But you can't. But when you're hiring, you can. And that's why you do it at Indeed.com/ham. They make it easier for the star applicants to shine with over 135 assessment tests from cooking to coding, baby. Indeed.com/ham.
Yep. Get it before March 31st. Indeed.com/ham. $75 job credit. Indeed.com/ham.
I mean, wouldn't you love to break down film the day you met your college roommates freshman year? Did you live in the dorms, or what was the deal at Cal Poly?
Yeah, I lived in the dorms. Yeah, there were a couple guys from Novato. Remember meeting this Grant from San Diego. I had, Travis and Fry, a couple guys that we went to high school with were right there too. But it was, I can't even. Doesn't that feel like a different world ago? Isn't that weird? I mean, we're not that far away, guy. Fall of 2003, 20 years ago.
I know.
20 years ago, we were headed into those little. What would I have to pay you right now to spend 6 months in a dorm? Even if it was by yourself, could you do it?
I drove by the Sequoia there. It's Fresno State. It's right off of Shaw Avenue, and I was back for Christmas, going to see Alyssa's family, and I drove by the Sequoia was the dorms. We were in the suites. I was late to get my application in, and so at the last minute they opened up the handicap suite. So that's where I was. We had a lot of extra room. The hallways were wide. The bathroom was wide. Everything was wheelchair accessible in our dorm room.
Big shitters.
So much space. Roll in, like walk in, shower. It was 4 guys, 2 in each room, 2 bunk beds in each room. But the living room was huge. We had a foosball table, beanbag, first floor. The door was always open. It was just a stream of people nonstop. And
was that the dude on the Brewers? Brother was in that group?
No, he was not in my Steve Braun, Ryan's brother, was not in my dorm. Steve and I lived together year 2. We got a house.
Was Steve on the baseball team?
Steve was on the baseball team, yeah.
Gotcha. So you didn't have, in my dorm, we had, I think, 6 and 6 showers. So every shower was kind of like a little shitter. When you go in, there was 5 or 6 at a game. Everyone's shower, you can see everyone's feet next to you. It's just, I guess you just become normalized to it. You just walk in, there's 7 guys with towels shaving. It's just but after a while, it's just part of the deal. And then you look back, how did I do this? It's like a camp that lasts for a year.
Shout out to Ian Pisk, who teaches at Fresno State and listens to the podcast. And we lived together. He was in the dorm room. Ian, good dude.
What does he teach?
Good basketball player. A variety of things. Yeah, we talked to the class once. via Zoom like 2 years ago. Anyway,
Where'd you guys play hoops? Rec Center or like the other
Rec.
gym that we used to play?
Now that the older North Gym is where we would play. That's where the intramural league. That's where the crazy ballers. That's where the crazy ballers won their championship.
Because when I got there, the rec center was relatively new. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it wasn't there. I think my freshman year. The new rec center.
Yeah, the new rec center wasn't bad.
But you played in the North Gym. Oh, we played. We played.
Yeah,
in the North
the
Gym.
North Gym's like just shitty old gym that feels good to play pickup hoops in.
We actually had to get us back to football. We had one of our neighbors. Her name was Turk. I don't know what her real name is. We called her Turk. She would carry a big boombox everywhere. So we actually kind of had the Niners assistant strength coach for our intramural basketball warm-ups. She would walk out with the boombox while we did warm-ups.
You start?
I did not, no. But we won the championship. I came off the bench. Yep. Anyway, so Jimmy Garoppolo, John, spoke to the media today. The Niners practiced with Garoppolo's throwing thumb and now a sprained throwing shoulder. By the time the media was asked to leave practice, no one had thrown yet, so we don't know how he threw. But we do know that it's a problem for him. He said as much, asked which one hurts more on Tuesday. He said yes. So is there any part of you that wonders if Jimmy Garoppolo will be the starting quarterback against the Packers on Saturday night?
No. I mean, I'm at the point now where I expect him to play, but I mean, he's clearly banged up. And when he gave the description how he hurt his shoulder is because he didn't want to hurt his thumb, right? He's going down, and I've never broken a hand or had a cast, but, people with splints or whatever, when they're going down on it, they have to roll. He kind of did that the way he described it, and he went down. Obviously, you have less of a length to fall if you put your hand down. Well, he put his elbow down because he didn't want to fall on his throwing hand. Then he jams his elbow, and it jams back up to his shoulder. Now, he claimed, especially Kyle was pretty adamant that he's like, you have to ask Jimmy about the shoulder making his throws look shitty, but I just basically say, I'm like, it's just Jimmy throw some shitty passes. And his velocity, to me, even back to when he threw, the only one I give him a little bit of a pass on is the Tennessee pick, because the angle it gave in slow motion coming out of his hand looked really funny. Like, his picks are spirals. They just usually really high. That one, remember, was kind of like a wobbler.
Yeah. It
was like he couldn't grip it. I'll be stunned. Do you expect Trey Lance has been named the starter? That's.
I would also be stunned.
If Trey Lance was let's say the Jimmy Garoppolo was out, Trey Lance was starting, what would the line be?
Well, some people suggest that this morning, Jason McIntyre tweeted major line movement because of this. The line surged to Green Bay -6. Green Bay -6 actually just seems like a reasonable line to me. Texted someone in SF about 90 minutes ago asking about Jimmy G. Lots of rumors like may not start good. And then Rap Sheet, noted PXG club owner, went on McAfee's show talking about it. That still shot I got, he didn't hold it like that the whole time, but it's almost like they paid him to pull the hat down once while he was on McAfee's show.
Drew
Honestly,
Parsons?
if you go on McAfee's show where there's 28,000 people watching at any given second, and you're not getting paid to wear whatever logo you're wearing, you are doing yourself a disservice. So hopefully Rap Sheet got himself at least a free set of clubs out of that. If you told me right now Trey Lance is the starting quarterback in this game, I'd say the line is
12.
I don't know. You were going to go double figures?
Do you think they could win with Trey Lance starting quarterback?
I wouldn't. Yeah. Do I think they could? Yes, I do think they could. I do think they
in a playoff game, his third start in his career on the road in Lambeau.
I think they could. Yeah, I'm not saying I would. I'm not saying the odds are good, but I think they could. Yes,
I saw some.
I have that much faith in Kyle's run game.
I saw a couple people with the Packers. They're bloggers for the Packers, people that cover the Packers. I think the Niners' best chance to win this before it even got out that Jimmy was injured would be them starting Trey Lance. I'm like, guys, did you guys watch? I know you didn't. The Texans game. Let's not act like this guy's just, Patrick Mahomes year 2 right now. It could be overwhelming. This guy has made 2 NFL starts. They have been rocky. Listen, I am not some huge Jimmy defender, but I am on board now with Kyle, understanding he makes you feel good going into a game that he can play NFL playoff games. The Texans game was hard for Trey Lance. This game would be Very difficult.
We had the discussion on the last podcast about like how many good plays does one bad play cancel? Is it like 3 good throws with 1 bad interception? A bad interception is worth a lot. If we go back, if we did a cut up of the year of Niners on third down, there would be so many 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 11s, 3rd and 8s that Garoppolo hit. Like there's a lot of those. If you go back and watch the
like 30 yards, they had a lot of slants that go big.
But I'm just talking about crunch time, big moment, 3rd and 11s. Go back and watch the last Packer-Niner playoff game. Kaepernick hits a couple huge 3rd and longs in that game. So ultimately, that is what is required of you in these games. Like there's going to be some game where everybody standing at home can barely hold their bowels, and you got to step up and make a big play.
Didn't Whitner mention that? Like, go back and watch. Kaepernick carried us in some.
And it wasn't spots. It was some huge runs, but he had some big throws. He had some huge runs. Maybe people are saying that.
I forget that game, to be honest with you. I might need to go back and watch that.
I mean, if you watch him run, the way he can turn the corner and accelerate, even at the sideline, the field looked like absolute ass, by the way. Yeah. But like maybe people, Kyle did put Trey Lance in a critical spot in the first meeting between these two. It was goal to go situation. They're down 17-0. The half is about to end. Garoppolo's about to get sacked, and I'll whisper, kind of grounds a pass that could have been flagged for as he's like in the grass because they had no timeouts. 2 seconds left, and it's all or nothing. Shanahan's like, he can kick the field goal, make it 17-3, or try and score. And he brings Trey Lance into the game, and he gets that huge.
That was a sweet play. That's
play.
One of the highlight plays of the year. Just a one-off play.
Debo wasn't on the field. Ayuk was not on the field. And it was, just go follow.
They went into halftime off that play, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it was a big play.
Do you think they have plays for him now? Or, like, obviously last week they didn't need to use them because they were winning?
I kind of think they do. But I also, Garoppolo, Jimmy in the red zone. I mean, I don't know. I think you're okay with Jimmy in the red zone.
I'm going to miss
Niners are the number one. I said it last week, and you saw it. They put it on TV. Not me saying it. The Niners, number 1 red zone touchdown team in the league by percentage. So, it's weird because it's not really a weakness of your team.
No, they have so many weapons, and they run the ball so well.
Jimmy has more rushing touchdowns than Trey Sermon.
Well, Jimmy is a fantastic short yardage sneaker, except when he needs to let his offensive tackle get set. Now, you could argue, did we need to shift him? Probably not, but
would have gone down as one of the all-time. If the Cowboys won that game, that specific play, I think might be worse than the interception.
Okay, let's say they win the game. Who's your number 1 culprit on that? Is it just Jimmy? You got to know you're a veteran quarterback. Do you need to shift Trent? Like, to me, that's a little Kyle-y. Like, that's a little much. You could just run the sneak. Like, it's unstoppable. I feel like the most Brady sneaks, and we've all watched a lot of Patriot big games, there ain't no shifting or anything. It's like fucking mano a mano, I'm sneaking.
Yeah, yeah.
And same with Jimmy. Like, they just do the sneak. He's great at the sneak.
Really, a lot of credit. How do you, like, quarterbacks, you can't hit the quarterback, but clearly Brady over the years was great at sneaks from the beginning, but they're kind of hard to practice because you don't want to put the quarterback in too much of a, we'll have to break down with a coach how they practice sneaks.
It feels like there is a skill at, like, the probably a 10% of a second where you hesitate, you let them get a little push, and then you go. Because you don't go right away. You got to let them kind of take their initial explosion, and then you pick a lane, and then you go. Feels like Jimmy goes a little higher than Tom. I guess Jimmy can go low sometimes. Jimmy went high in the one that got flagged, didn't he? He kind of went.
He was like on Mac's back, kind of, right?
Yeah.
I was like, again, but
actually a little close for my liking. It wasn't. He didn't just pick up a yard. He picked up like a half yard on that play, didn't he? Because he was high and they kind of
I thought he got enough.
No, he got enough, but I'm just saying it wasn't
he only needed.
Yeah, but sometimes I would say Jimmy Sneaks gained like a yard and a half. This was not one of those.
The other thing that happened in the first Packer game was the use check sneak worked.
Which one? Oh, where he got in.
Which game did that fail in? It was a home game against. Somebody in the chat might remember.
Might have been the Colts.
I want to say it was Indianapolis too.
It was bad. And then no one. I could text them and ask them what happened, but clearly, no one really took like they didn't put it on one person or the other. It might have been like, wasn't he supposed to run the
Cardinal
option?
game?
Wasn't he supposed to run the option or something? And he just went.
Know. But it worked in the first. That was one of the other things that happened in that game. I heard you texted me today because you were at the gym and you heard some guy listening to Pop and Lund. I was like, I wonder what Pop and Lund are up to.
No, I was on just a nature walk.
Oh, nature walk. And
guy's walking his dog, and I'm like, is that Greg? And then the guy just keeps walking.
It happened to me yesterday. I was on a walk. A guy walks by with both dogs, and he's like probably, mid-50s, and he's just got his phone in his hand, just full blast listening, protecting his eardrums or something.
What was he listening?
I don't even know. But so I was like, oh, yeah, let's see what. So Chris Biederman was on from the Sacramento Bee, and he made the point. This was an interesting theory. He's like, maybe the cold helps Jimmy. It numbs the pain. I was like, I had not thought about that. Maybe it numbs the pain.
The one thing about Jimmy, and he talked about it today, like, I'm born and raised in this shit. Like, he is. We talk a lot about Derek. Like, the last thing I worry about Jimmy is the cold. Born and raised in Chicago, played in Chicago, and then played in New England. Like, to me, he's not a California guy. He's just probably dated a lot of our women since he's been here. But he is a cold weather guy. Like, to me, Tom became one by going to Michigan and then New England. Jimmy was born and raised in it.
Yeah.
Like, you and I think the older you get, it's probably hard to. Most people, they all avoid it like the plague if you've never been around it. When you meet people from there, like, it will not shock me at all if Jimmy's has a residence as he gets, like, in his 40s. Like, you were reading about what's Jimmy Garoppolo doing now? Like, has a pad in Chicago. Like, they like the cold. Now, he'd probably have a sweet pad in, like, Jupiter, Florida. He's got so much money. But I'm just saying, like, cold people they feel comfortable in that. I don't, but, that's why I always respect the Rodgers and the Bradys who go there and then they kind of become one with the weather.
I mean, how about Josh Allen going to Wyoming and then to Buffalo? Like, that's not where he grew up.
Feels very natural in it, too. Wouldn't you say Fireball is pretty hot?
Yes. Fire is in the name.
Yeah. You're right. And now I think maybe once you have a skill set, you can find, like, this is a big point. This is a separating factor for me. I can play well in this. It's harder for other guys.
Yeah.
It probably helps, right?
Yeah. Yep. I think
like the Euros playing in the wind in golf, they feel comfortable in it.
Well, and that's where, if you told me it was windy and Jimmy's arm was a little less than 100%, that'd probably be a little more concerning than cold and arm less than 100%. Although, again, Jimmy's arm, it's funny. Like, when you see him throw over the middle, like, there's plenty of arm there. And then sometimes you watch a deep ball or a throw to the sideline, and it doesn't feel like there's quite as much arm. But
it's just not, sometimes it's just a scattering report. Arm strength's not an issue. You would just say he's just not a good deep ball thrower. Not necessarily because he can't make it. Maybe he's just not comfortable doing it. He's just not good at the deep ball.
Yeah.
Because he can throw it 40, 45 yards, but they just do not. Yeah. It might just be as simple as he's not the most accurate player. I wouldn't say he's a naturally accurate player. And the deep ball does take some pinpoint accuracy, right? Pinpoint might be strong, but I mean,
it's a really hard ball to throw. I mean, we could start with that, right?
Yeah, it's the hardest ball to throw. That's why Russell, his deep ball is so beautiful, and it's always just drops right in the spot.
Brady.
Even Manning, for a long time, he would just have to get rid of it earlier, but he knew exactly where he wanted it to go. Yeah. Eli was a really good, I'd say, deep ball thrower. I feel like when I close my eyes and think Eli Manning, he just threw some deep balls, right?
Might have thrown the greatest deep ball in the history of the league to Mario Manningham.
Yeah. I mean, does Jimmy ever throw really? They just don't run that route. Any routes down the sideline, really, right?
No, I think even, again, not to go back to the first Packer game, they took some deep shots in that game that were not – one of them was a pick.
Was that the game where they hit a deep shot to Debo? Might have been a little later in the season.
They hit a deep shot in the Debo.
Jimmy did hit a post this year to Debo. I forget what game, but it was like, oh, they ran a post.
I don't remember.
The Niners' deepest routes are like, yeah, we'll just run some crossers and we'll push it back another 10 yards. No posts.
As long as you're open with like 12 yards around you, it can work. So I'm with you. I expect him to play. It would not shock me if you get something with Trey Lance in it. We'll talk more about like keys to the game. We've got a couple things that we'll talk about on Thursday's podcast. I think there's a couple critical things that the Packers do really well. One thing specifically that they do really well that kind of is a part of this that we can talk about Thursday, but but I do expect him to play. I don't know. I want to say you expect Trey Lance, but I think this is what's unique about Kyle is Kyle pulls things out that are quote unquote, curveballs that are with his normal personnel, with Debo, with Elijah Mitchell, with Ayuk. He ran a great fake Debo handoff, Kittle end around in that first Packer game. I don't know how many times they've run it this year, maybe a couple, but it was a really unique, creative play. So I think that's the beauty. That's the thing where it's hard to get Trey in there. It's hard to find the spot for him because he doesn't really need him. But
if I'm Kyle, in front of LaFleur in warmups, I go over and say what's up to Rodgers. Try to just throw everyone off, throw the mojo off.
Ooh, that's a great idea.
Aaron, what's up, man, bro? Yeah, off season, probably be down in Diego with Staley. You're fucking around, Cali. I know you got a place in Malibu. Holler at us. It's actually the OC. We drink beers. We throw shit in the pizzas. I let you see that ball I threw last year. Yeah, we'll just be out there drinking on rooftops.
Huh?
You just come on over.
What's
LaFleur,
that? Yeah, same number. Same number. Yep.
Hit John. Yeah, John. You just forward him. He'll forward it to me.
Yep. Same place you came to last time. Oh yeah. Good luck.
Your vegan actress friends and wives and girlfriends and fiance, bring them. They're cool. Yeah, Joe's wife's cool. Just bring them.
Yeah, Jimmy will be there. It'll be cool though. Nothing to worry about.
If you guys need salad or whatever, you probably need to bring that. We just have meat, but yeah, just bring whatever. I feel like the people Aaron hangs out with, they probably eat some weird food.
Swap out. Well, they went to Monkey Pod in Hawaii. That's where they were. Miles Turner.
That's where the guy got beat up.
What's his name? Miles.
Teller.
Miles Teller. Yeah.
Where's Top Gun? Whatever happened to that movie? Remember that was supposed to
come
out
like
like 3
for
years
it, John.
ago?
Still waiting for it.
That guy at the Super Bowl, I remember running into Miles Teller. He was promoting Top Gun 2. That was 2 years ago.
You'll be promoting Top Gun 7 before the second one comes out.
I mean, is Tom Cruise going to be 70 when this thing comes out?
I don't know. I saw there's a new Reacher, like a Jack Reacher show on I don't know. I saw the ad last night. Amazon Prime or Disney Plus or I don't even know what. But it's not. It's without him. It's just not the same.
Well, do you know the new Billions? I'd forgotten because I don't even remember the.
I just finished the old one, which is why I knew. Axe is banished to Switzerland.
I might need to rewatch the end of that. I forgot. So he's not in this new season.
Makes no sense. Did he contract dispute? Did he have something else to do?
Yeah, this isn't the Patriots. You don't just get to keep playing without Brady. Like he is a huge part of the show. Like he's on the crew.
Maybe he wanted out.
Well, yeah. I mean, wouldn't you guess? Like maybe they had contract dispute or something. Can you have the Sopranos without Tony? Can you have Billions without Axe? How do you have that?
Well, the preview's out. He's not in the preview. I don't.
Yeah, the trailer's out.
D. Anthony says May 22nd, 2022
is
the Top Gun release.
Wasn't Axes this weekend?
Yeah.
Right?
It's this weekend. Good.
I think the 23rd.
If you flip-flopped Cliff and LaFleur, would the Packers would be worse.
Yeah.
Would the Cardinals would be better? No, I know. But would the Packers be a championship contender still because of Aaron?
How would those two fundamentally view football? Like Aaron was taught West Coast offense. You watch that offense they run? What the fuck's even going on?
Well,
yeah. No.
It's Cliff's been. Did you see? So you and I have been talking about this for a few months to the point that I need to update my L's graphic. But Florio today went all the way back to Texas Tech. We've been talking about for a few months that once December hit, the Cardinals fall apart under Cliff. Florio all the way back to Texas Tech. 2013, start 7-0, finish 1-5. 2-0 to 2-8 in 14. In 2015, 3-1 start, 2-6 finish. In 17, 4-1 start, 2-6 finish. Then to the NFL, 3-1 start, 2-7 finish. 2020, 6-3 start, 2-5 finish. 2021, 10-2 start, as we know, 1-5 finish for the Cardinals. So there is a Cliff problem. I mean, we can agree on that, right?
Russillo's always had this argument, and I think he might be friends with him, is that it's unfair and disingenuous to use the Texas Tech stuff because Texas Tech doesn't play anyone in the non-conference, and then obviously they end up playing down the stretch, right? Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. They just play the
Legitimate point.
And it's like, okay, I agree. It cannot be argued these last 2 years. He went 1-5 this year down the stretch. And to me, everyone's going to make a big deal over last night. They got their ass kicked against Seattle a week ago. And if they win that game at home, they're division champs. Now, watching that game, let's say they would have won when the Rams lost to the Niners. Do the Rams go in there and beat them? Potentially, probably. Hell yeah. But I'm out, man. I've been out. I wonder if he's going to get fired in the next couple of days. He's on a 4-year contract, this year 3. I know Schefter said that Oklahoma was interested, and I love that PFT and Big Cat are starting to make fun of these guys for like some of their Jimmy tweets and some of their tweets about like, guys, I mean, it's a little much. I like him in Rap Sheet, but like, this guy's really done a lot to prove his worth. Like, guys, we're all watching the football game. The players, the coaches, like, we understand. Like, stop. You can't make things up out of, like, Jimmy. We've seen Jimmy Garoppolo. You don't need to tweet that out. But the Kingsbury thing, like, and again, I know his agent. I bet him a long time ago, and we text every once in a while. I think they were pretty confident when things were going well, they were going to break the bank, right? He was going to be an $8-9 million coach. If he won the division, maybe won a playoff game, it couldn't have ended any worse. And do you notice, did I forward you the Mike Silver tweet last night? I want to say one thing about Mike Silver, especially on the West Coast, he's going to know these owners. And he wrote, like, last year the owner was not happy with the finish. And watching this tonight, I can imagine he's really mad. And you can coach on a 1-year contract in the pros if you want to. I don't see how they would give him a fake extension. I wonder if I will not be shocked if he loses his job by the end of the week. Now, I think it's the one thing that, I know the Kingsbury camp felt pretty good about, somewhat tied at the hip with the quarterback. He's not just like, I wouldn't just view him as like a normal quarterback. He is somewhat unique, and he still is probably, he plays quarterback, so he's a really important asset. I maybe the move is just to run it back. These guys on kind of a contract year, but you could not even give him to me, you couldn't even give him a fake contract extension. Why would you want to just pay him to pay him?
You wouldn't do it. You're right. You don't do that in the NFL. As you pointed out,
they beat the shit out of them last night.
Did not feel like a playoff game. And
felt like a Thursday night game, to be honest with you.
The Cardinals were once upon a time in the driver's seat to win the division. They should have been at home for that game.
I saw someone say it was 80% for whatever it means, 80% likelihood that they were going to win the NFC West at whatever.
I don't think they're the better team. I don't think they should have been at home, but that's how I would be thinking if I were the owner of the Cardinals. The question is, if you've made the decision to fire Cliff, are you doing that independent of your decision? Are you keeping Steve Keim and he's hiring the next coach? I wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Keim's a joke. Good. Yeah, I don't either. I don't. As crazy as it sounds, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But, like my question would be, clearly Kyler is better than most quarterbacks. I don't want to hear about Kyler's MVP in September. The reason to not bring Cliff back would be sooner than later, you're going to have to make a decision about whether or not Kyler Murray is a $40 million quarterback. I need to know that answer as soon as possible because I don't want to be in the in-between. And I think in all likelihood, he probably will end up being that. But I got to find the guy that I think can win games with Kyler Murray immediately. And I wonder.
You think there's the better than 50% chance he gets a massive contract from the Cardinals like in the next couple of years?
I'm saying he was, if I'd brought this up in September, we'd all agree he's trending that way, right?
Oh yeah.
So I know you're going to have to make the decision. I know that.
Pretty telling though. 2 years in a row as the season goes on for a little guy that he just clearly doesn't look.
This is my point. Like I know what it looks like already. I got to know before I'm up against the deadline with Kyler what the future is with him, and I got to try and find the next coach for him. I'm not big on banging on Cliff. Like you've told me enough. I've heard enough from other people. Like he's liked, he works hard. I've heard from somebody in that organization, like Cliff works his ass off. Like Cliff's not, this whole playboy mentality that people put on him.
No one's ever argued that.
No. But I think Kyler's part of this problem. And this is what I'm getting at is Like, I would be a little apprehensive if I'm the next coach of the Cardinals. If this guy really is everything that, people think he could be, then why was he so terrible against the Los Angeles Rams? All these stats we're talking about with Cliff 3 years running, they're part of Kyler's resume too. And what happened Monday night is a big part of Kyler's resume. I thought Kyler looked like a baseball player in a slump on Monday, and there's no reason for it. It was the first game of the playoffs. And in baseball, you can have terrible body language because ultimately you play right field. As long as you catch the ball, you hit, you're not leading anybody else. Playing football and quarterback's a different animal. And bad body language in baseball is bad too. But he's got bad baseball body language, which is not what I want out of my quarterback. And when I brought this up to you, you made the point, and you're right. He looks that way when they're succeeding too. Well, when they're winning, it's not a problem. But he looked like
he didn't want to be there.
It looked like it looked like the last week before the All-Star break to me watching Kyler Murray last night. He was zoned out. He was zoned out. And I do think it's better to take the job with Kyler than most quarterbacks probably, but I would be apprehensive about being Kyler Murray's coach right now.
Of all the quarterbacks that he's in the crew of in terms of talent, and he's in the crew of all the young guys, right? Right. You just list the guys under 30, Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Lamar, his body language. Those guys are good body language guys. You're the quarterback. Like Lamar, to me, is like the most upbeat of the group. It's why I've grown to love Lamar, even though, we'll see. Like, obviously now some injury stuff, but it's like Lamar and knowing people in the Ravens, his positive energy. Kyler, bro, you're fucking slumping your shoulders like you said. You just went 0 for 35. And baseball just can kind of be lethargic just in general, right? It's just like, what another game. This is football. And there have been enough rumblings with the top guys there that do not, and the former players, I don't know, they have a few. One guy was at the game last night, Larry, and Carson, that have made mention of that. So I'm out. I'll tell you where I'm at, Kyler. I'm out. I think
it's a real reflection. I do buy that the body language is a reflection of the problems they have with him.
And I won't put that on Cliff in the sense of you can't change the guy's personality, but he knew this kid since he was 16 years old. He was the guy that pounded the table for him. The reason they
got the job.
They can say what they want, but they built the thing around him.
Yeah. Which again, not a terrible plan.
No, the plan, but again, you're investing in people. This is a people business.
100%. I'm just saying, to me, the logic of we've got the first pick. Let's hire the coach that knows the quarterback that we think we'll take. It's not the most insane thing I've ever seen.
No, I'm not anti. I understand why they did it. There weren't even that many great coaching candidates, but I echo what you said. His body language makes me want to throw up. I can't imagine being a fan of that.
No,
you lose, you lose. But just the like you said. It's not even that fun when he wins. He's not like some big smiley guy. And listen, maybe he's just a negative Nancy, but god damn, you're getting your ass kicked. Show a little something. It was hard to watch. It really was.
It was bad. And
honestly, and I'm a Cardinal hater. It was one of those you feel like you're kicking them like this is an embarrassment.
I just wanted to get into it because the criticism of Cliff Fair, I think it's fine, but I think the Kyler stuff I think it's part of the problem. I think
Cliff, the one thing you would give him, right, he's proven to not be the joke that people thought he would be. Because he went 8-8 last year and he won, 10, 11 games this year. Then he go 1-5. It is really difficult, I would say, in sports. You would say historically in our lifetime, in pro sports, when you're known as a guy that always collapses right down the stretch, and now it's happened multiple times. That is something that's hard to shake. You're known as the collapse. Like you do take the player's stink on you, whether it's your fault or not. Now he has two pretty epic collapses back-to-back years where he should have been in the playoffs last year, and then this year, I would say that Monday night game, the entire league, like some people might have missed you Saturday afternoon, right? Just like if the team was out of the playoffs, maybe you're with your wife or your kids, you're at a fucking baseball game or a basketball game. There ain't a soul that missed that thing last night, right? That just college people, NBA people were watching. Like people were just watching that football game. You see Jay-Z, he looks like Whoopi Goldberg now. What's up with his look?
I didn't see him.
Jay-Z's just got a weird look going. I don't know. Maybe he just moved to L.A. and kind of went I don't know. Just looks a little different.
I didn't see. Mark Davis, John, there's a lot of jostling right now about who picked who. Vic Tafer's been doing some reporting about it. Between Mike Mayock and John Gruden, who wanted Ruggs, who wanted Arnett, who wanted Furl. Vic Tafur kind of shot down. Pete Prisco wrote, Mayock wanted Devin White and got overruled. And Tafur did a poop emoji GIF, actually, on that.
It was actually the dinosaur poop.
That's right.
With Goldbaum or what's his name?
Jeff Goldblum, who's just fantastic. But this has been a retroactive mess. It was a mess in and of itself. It's been a mess on top of that, like as it's ended, the way it's ended, and I guess we shouldn't be surprised by that. And if it's not Jim Harbaugh, then I think the search could be a little bit of a mess too.
He fires a lot of people. I mean, they just one thing after another. They just have disaster after disaster. And, it was fun making fun of him years ago. We don't get as much joy out of it anymore. Part of it is they, just had the same coach and GM for a little while, but now they're both gone. And like you said, the people that we were talking about this before we even started the pod is that you have to go back to when he took over the team. His two advisors were Ron Wolf and John Madden. Well, one guy's dead and the other guy's in his mid-80s now. And you just go, how would John Gruden and Jim Harbaugh hires are easy, right? They're not easy in terms of they cost a lot, but they're pretty easy, right? You just know the guy you want to hire. He's really famous. You're going to get a lot of credit for it. No one can really, especially Jim. To me, John, some people would be like, this kind of crazy hire, but to me, Jim would be a no-brainer. You would get universal credit for it. It would be huge for your brand and your team, and it would just be a big deal. It'd be a big football deal. And John was too. If he just has to do a normal, like, Brian Daboll or Kellen Moore, like, I don't know. Really what he would have, the only way he could do that, he'd have to hire a GM first, and the GM would make the hire. That's what that happened.
But who's conducting that interview?
I guess Mark. Yeah, I mean,
do NFL teams ever hire search firms? I mean, colleges do it all the time.
Well, Mark always had these guys that he kind of leaned on. They were kind of legends that, clearly helped.
I think what would end up happening is the league will effectively operate as a search firm. Right. And so
they did that with, Shad Khan. They basically gave him Balky. It's like he wouldn't be alone in that. I would say the difference is Mark has been around the NFL for 40 years now, or longer than that, however, 60 his whole life.
Yeah. But in terms of really decision making.
But he's now been running a team for a decade, right? And he's been around league meetings, and he should be knowing a lot of fucking people now. Totally. He has no excuse now. I give him some excuses. His dad didn't let him around in 11, a lot going on. Now it's like, you've been to all these. He goes to every game. He meets all these people. People like him. Like, people are coming up to talk to him. This to me now is on Mark, right?
No, it's not about excuses. It's what I'm saying is that what evidence is there that he would know how to do? He would do this.
I think the scary thing is
I'll say this: veteran owners have screw up hires left and right every day. So
John Mara's missed every year for like.
Yeah, I mean it's really not unique to Mark, but it's just what would they do? I mean Joe Judge is a hire that you end up with when you I don't know, you get duped. I don't know what that is. You take a big swing, but if it's not Jim, I'm.
If it's not Jim guy, I have absolutely no clue who is going to end up as the GM or the head coach. Do you agree with that? Like, you could tell me any scenario, and I could. Billy Wingfoot from the Panthers is the GM, and he hires the special teams coordinator. Like, anything is believable. Rich stays.
If
it's all Jim, on the table.
If it's not Jim, could he go back to Could he go back to TV?
Who?
Could he hire Lewis after Mayock?
Yeah, he could hire Lewis.
Well, like
Lewis has been interviewing the last couple of years. I think
Lewis would be then at the top of the list.
I think Lewis wants the job for sure.
Well,
I mean, he takes a lot of pride in the Raiders.
Yeah.
But I think you hire Lewis. Like Lewis, worked in the league for a decade.
Lewis would know how to find a head coach.
Lewis would have a short list.
I'm just saying, if we're making the list of people that I think Mark Davis would go to, if it's not Jim Harbaugh, then I think Louis Riddick's probably at the top of that list.
I mean, if I told you that he ends up with Louis Riddick and Doug Peterson, you would say that's pretty serviceable, right?
Yeah.
Because let's face it.
It's a Super Bowl winning head coach, John.
Yeah, your GM, if your coach is good, your GM doesn't have to be Ron Wolf in his prime. Obviously Lewis has never done it. Mayock would have been fine if his coaches were good. You saw this year; they were fine. They made the playoffs.
We do. I do. I think you're right. Like
John Lynch has missed.
Everyone's made the Leatherwood pick. Everybody, even Ron Wolf.
He just did it 4 years in a row. He was missing on first rounders. That's his problem.
Yeah. But I mean, I do wonder if there was just not enough. You need a little yin and yang. Maybe him and John. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, Breer wrote, and I think Tafer might have alluded this too. I remember being told by a guy on another team. Like round 2, like I heard Mike Mayock is going to get fired. Remember in the draft? I think I told you. I heard Mike Mayock's going to get fired, and then we waited a couple of days. He didn't get fired. There were definitely rumblings that John Gruden was going to fire him. So where do you think Mike got these thoughts? Or I mean, Mark got these thoughts, right? I think this was implanted in him from John.
Who he still likes, right? He still wants John Gruden to be his coach.
100%.
Think about that.
Like John Gruden is suing the league, but he's really suing the 31 teams. He's not suing Mark. To me, Mark, I just think they both that night they had no choice. Mark Davis is not happy with the way this all played out, and he was never. One thing I think that's clear is Mayock has nothing to do with Mark Davis. Mayock is just there simply because of John Gruden, and then they found out like maybe this guy was a little over his skis, which still to me is weird. Because I always it shows you though. We talked about this the other day on the feed. That it just shows you it's a lot different. It's easy to like. I'd probably sound genius just getting up there if I really studied it, just talking overall players. And then when you're on the clock, you're like, well, I got 7 guys. I kind of like this Leatherwood guy a lot, but I mean, we sure? Yeah, take Leatherwood.
And I could understand you think to yourself,
Leatherwood was a starting right tackle at Alabama, and it started several years at Alabama.
And when you get your shot, you're like, this is my shot. I'm taking who I believe in, not who's not going to get me criticized, right? But a lot of those guys get you criticized, unfortunately. You don't get that many at bats, right?
Isn't
like
it weird,
Stephen Vogt started his career 0 for 32 or something with the A's in his big league career, 0 for 32 before he hit a home run. You don't get that. You don't get that many first round at bats.
If Mike was the guy pulling the trigger, though, there wasn't really a rhyme or reason, right? You'd go, well, Farrell was low ceiling, super high character team captain Clemson. Leatherwood was actually like people question like the weird cat, not your typical Alabama guy. Arnett had a ton of red flags. He was just all over the board. The guys in the middle rounds, all like Crosby, Renfro, they all feel kind of the same. Like he was just getting these tough, just kind of consistent blue collar guys. But at the top, it's like they didn't have an identity. Like, are we swinging for the fences? Or are we just going pure character? It's like they didn't know.
Ken on the stream says, look at Gruden's bad drafts in Tampa once Dungy's all-pro defensive stud aged out. Very similar. Run back in the first, flame out receiver, bad trenches QBs. Best pick was Talib, and he was traded before the second contract.
I did like Cadillac Williams in Auburn, I remember. I thought he was sweet.
What was his real name?
Mercedes or something? I don't know. Do you remember the two of those guys, Ronnie Brown and Cadillac?
Yeah. Oh, Carnell. That's not what I would have guessed.
It was just, I mean, at the time, I think most people viewed Cadillac Williams like a top 10 pick. Now, he ended up not being great, but it's also, there's not an easier job to do than talk about drafts a year, 2 years, 3 years after.
It's one of the most fun things to do.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, well, and to talk about it before the draft, too.
But you don't have any information beside what you think before. After, it's like, what idiot took this guy pick 17? Oh, my God. This guy can't play dead in the Western. How'd they miss on this guy in the 3rd round? Shit, A.J. Brown. Clearly, every team, like, for example, A.J. Brown, were like, there were some red flags, or the guy wouldn't have lasted to the end of the 2nd round.
Right.
DK Metcalf was strictly known for being half naked with Pete Carroll in that video that went viral. People were like, yeah, he can't really play, though. And then by, like, halfway through his rookie year, they're like, how the hell did this guy last? Just it happens every single year. And in football more than the other sports, just because the 7th round, and you're just bound to get guys in the 4th, 5th round that are going to become Kittles and Shermans and Brady's. It's inevitable.
I hope DK can bounce back from his 75 reception, 12 touchdown down year, John.
Did I think get 3 touchdowns week 17, but still had 9 through 16. So
yeah, I mean
people are acting like he was a scrub.
Seahawks offseason. Has Pete met with the owner yet? Have we not heard what happened? That was
yeah. I think I think they're good. The whole band's getting back together. You
just
see
nothing, a whole lot of nothing.
Kenny Norton got fired. You see that?
Well, okay.
Ed Donatel, remember Harbaugh's old coach that was Fangio? I saw that Pete Carroll fired Ken Norton yesterday, requested the Denver Broncos, who fired Fangio. I love when the head coach is fired, but all the assistants are under contract. So it's like, what do I come into the office and do every day? I get requested to go interview with Seattle. Like, I have to ask for a request. My boss just got fired. The semantics of the league are kind of ridiculous in some of these situations, aren't they?
Yes. Well, I mean, the fact that DeMeco Ryans is interviewing on Wednesday with the Vikings is pretty wild.
It's nuts. Can he interview Sunday?
How about did we talk about the Mayock story? That they thought other people in the building saw him leaving the building and just thought he was leaving for the day, didn't know he was fired. They're just doing their tasks,
I immediately I saw Breer tweets it, so I'm like, I got to check out the 75 comments here. A lot of people are like, don't you guys know the rules of human resources? You're not allowed to talk to people when you get removed from a building. I'm like, well, I can relate. That is true, right? You're not allowed to be like, hey, guys, I've been relieved of my duties. Now, if they see you with the HR lady, maybe they would know something was going on. But if his office is in a place where they didn't see him get fired, if I was going to defend the Raiders, is it that inconceivable that situation takes place? Like, you have to leave the building? Remember Chip, once upon a time, got walked out of the building?
Yeah, they don't want you grabbing your laptop or whatever. It's still weird.
There are just like rules,
protocols. I know
for whatever,
but it's still kind of weird.
Should Mark Davis send out an email immediately, like, "Hey guys, your Mike Mayock has been fired. I'll update you more in the next couple days."
Before he interviews GMs,
is that the right thing to do? Well, they didn't interview GMs. They just sent out the faxes.
Feelers. Requests.
Yeah. What do you think Mike was like when someone in his office forwarded him like, "Hey, bro, we still work here? I see he's reaching out to some people."
Long lunch.
He's like, "Hey, man, it's still free lunch. I'd go grab some slices of pizza on your way out."
Nate on the stream. How Fangio have the number 1 defense and about to get replaced by another defensive coach? LOL. It's funny. Yeah, and kind of true. All right. Did we miss anything? Did I forget anything?
We did a couple hour pod already.
Yeah.
Midweek, no big deal.
This evening stream was kind of nice.
People are, at
People
home.
are hanging. Yeah. All right. Thanks for hanging, everybody. We'll be back. We're going to do a live stream Wednesday, YouTube only? Strike while the iron's hot?
Yeah, just let's keep it rock and roll.
Stay tuned to these channels to find out when we're coming back. And again, if you're watching the YouTube, hit that like button while you're here on your way out the door. Subscribe so you get the alerts. We appreciate that a lot. Let everybody.